I'm gonna say it. I think Bendy's kind of alright. Everyone knows it's Bendy, the most beloved episode of Foster's. Wait, Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends is one of my favorite Cartoon Network shows of all time. I think it wasted its potential a little bit, but I think it had a good run. Of course, there were a few episodes I didn't like. I'm not sure what's my least favorite, but everyone knows it's Bendy's out there. Now, a lot of people blame Bendy for ruining this episode, but honestly, I didn't think he was that much of a big problem in this episode. Heck, I don't even think Bendy's that much of a bad character. I mean, yes, I didn't like how he was breaking stuff and blaming the main characters for no reason, but at the same time, I like those scenes where he would justify himself in an over-the-top way. I thought it was funny. Not that I like him, but I think he's okay. Besides, it's not my biggest problem with the episode. My biggest problem is the way Frankie and Mr. Herman handled the entire situation. Everything that happened from the beginning to the end of the episode is a result of Frankie and Mr. Hammond's bad decision making. Now, to be fair, I don't blame them for thinking that Bendy was being framed by his creator, which led the parents of the kid to think that Bendy was the one breaking the stuff. I would have thought the same thing, but then when Bendy knocked down the case and framed Wilt, Coco, Ed, and Blue, they had no excuse for believing in Bendy.
I did it!
Oh, blaming this poor innocent, just after he was falsely accused by his own family and abandoned forthwith.
Are you freaking kidding me? You just proved Blue's point. An even bigger problem is that it shows that Mr. Hammond and Frankie have no trust in Blue and the others. They chose to believe someone they barely know over 4 people that have been living in Foster's for a while. Like, Wilt has been around in that house for years, and they chose to distrust him? Later in the episode, Bendy continues to do heinous things, blaming the other friends, and Frankie and Mr. Herman continue to believe in Bendy. It's like they're deliberately ignoring the hints that Bendy is the one doing the heinous things. Again, the parents warned them. It's not like Bendy's giving thought out evidence. All he's doing is crying. And no, I'm not going to attack on Bendy. For me, Bendy's just a mad dog, and I'm instead blaming the people who are letting him off the leash. Also, there's another problem. If Blue, Wilt, Coco, and Eduardo were characters you would picture doing heinous things and frame others, I would understand Frankie's and Mr. Herman's judgments, except they're not. Wilt can barely finish a dialogue without apologizing for something he doesn't even need to apologize. Why would he ever do all of those things? Eduardo would never hurt a fly.
I'm too scared of them anyway.
How would he have the nerve to do something bad and falsely blame others? Coco may be crazy, but she's not a liar. Blue, well, he does a lot of heinous things, and I mean a lot. However, if there's one thing he never does is put the blame on others. Heck, he's more likely to wear the blame like a badge than actually framing someone. And you know what's the worst part about all of this? Frankie and Mr. Herman should know this, especially Frankie. Frankie's their caretaker. She should know them enough to not even consider that they would actually blame others for something they did. Yeah, I remember being mad at Frankie and Mr. Herman for a long time as a kid. I mean, come on. They chose to believe Bendy over Wilt. That is an insult to me. Now, there is one thing about the episode I have to give props. The dynamic between Blue and Bendy. Now, I felt disgusted when Bendy framed Coco, Ed, and Wilt. Blue, however, not so much. I mean, it's kind of hard to feel bad for Blue, and he himself has done a lot of bad things. Not to mention, this episode was a follow-up 11-minute segment of another 11-minute segment, where Blue took advantage of Wilt's generosity to get chips. I'm not necessarily saying that Blue deserved to be played by Bendy, I'm just saying you feel less bad for him compared to others, and it makes those scenes where Bendy plays with Blue funnier. Plus, it's funny seeing Blue have his ego tested. Anyway, back to the dirt. I think what might be the worst moment of this episode, the one that absolutely ruined this episode, was the last moment, where Blue finally catches Bendy on the act, which caused the entire house to be destroyed. Well, I could question how Blue was capable of predicting and orchestrating every single move from Bendy in a very little time, and how he was capable of altering the entire house in order to catch Bendy without anyone noticing. But that's my least of my problems. For me, the biggest problem is Frankie and Mr. Herman's reaction to all of this. The first thing they did was call out Blue for flooding the house.
Blue? You flooded the
Okay, what about the fact that you've been wrongly accusing him of actions he didn't commit? What about the fact that if you had just believed him from the beginning, none of this would have happened? You know, even though Blue was the one who actively destroyed the house, I choose to blame Frankie and Mr. Harriman. They should have known better not to believe in someone they barely know, accusing Blue of committing crimes he didn't do, accusing him of framing someone even though he never does that, and most of all, by doing all of those things, you trigger Blue, someone with a giant ego, into doing something reckless. And you know what's the worst part? Frank and Mr. Harriman weren't called out for wrongly accusing the main characters, Bendy doesn't get called out for the crimes he committed, and Blue is treated like the lousy one in the episode. Sure, Blue did choose to challenge Bendy by playing at his own game and did destroy the house, but can you really blame someone for going a little nuts in a situation where it's constantly being blamed and punished for things he didn't do? I wouldn't. Anyway, those are my freaking thoughts on this freaking episode. Don't get me wrong, it's not my least favorite episode of Foster's, but it sure has a way of ticking my brain. So, subscribe if you want to watch more of my videos. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Bye for now.
What did you do?
Potatoes.